What's going on? What do you say we read a news article? It was kind of big news last week. As we read this, I'm going to have pictures for you and some definitions for the words. I'm just a little worried that they are out of order, so it might not be as organized as usual. And for that, I apologize. But we will be able to read this article. So let's start at the top here and we'll read the title. And it says, "A toddler lost in the woods is found asleep using family dog as a pillow." So when I first saw this article, I thought, oh, that's so cute. And I saw this little picture here. I thought, oh, this could be a toddler. We'll talk about what toddler is in a minute, but I can imagine her going out just for a little walk. Like toddler, maybe we should talk about that right now. But it's a young child who's just recently learned how to walk. So maybe they're like between 1 and 2 years old. So typical toddler. So I don't know where the parents were. They probably just for a second stopped watching this child. And it doesn't take long. I've been there before. As a parent, it doesn't take long for your little child to like, whoa, where'd they go? So it seems like in the matter of seconds, this little girl, was gone. So this takes place in Michigan, Faithhorn, Michigan. I've never heard of this city, but a 2-year-old girl who walked away from her home in Michigan's Upper Peninsula alongside two family dogs was found in the woods hours later, sleeping on the smaller dog like a furry pillow, state police said. So in that paragraph, I do have Michigan's Upper Peninsula highlighted. So maybe we should talk about that. And hopefully that's my next slide here. It is. So it's organized so far. So peninsula, that means land that is surrounded by water, but basically three sides. So if you look at that picture, there's water like in the front of it, to the left of it, to the right of it, but not behind it. So if you look down, it's a noun. A peninsula is a thing, piece of land almost surrounded by water or projecting out into a body of water. So if something is projecting out, it means like pushed forward. And I do have another. They talked about the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and I wanted to show you what the state of Michigan looks like. It's separated into two parts. So the bottom part, that's kind of like a peninsula because it is surrounded by water, but it almost looks like, how would I do it? Like a glove. And sometimes when you meet someone from Michigan, they point to where their city is located on like a glove or a mitten. But in the top, they call that the UP, which stands for the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So this is where this is taking place, like really close to the Canadian border. And luckily, these are short paragraphs. Some of the words are a little difficult, but not all of them. She laid down and used one of the dogs as a pillow, and the other dog laid right next to her and kept her safe. Lieutenant Mark, I don't know about this last name. I'm hoping I pronounce it right, but Giannuzio, probably wrong, said Thursday, "It's a really remarkable story." So I thought remarkable might be a tough one as well. Remarkable. When you see that, it means it's an adjective, so it describes something. So this story of this little girl wandering into the woods, we'll talk about wandering in a minute, wandering into the woods with her two dogs. She falls asleep using one of the dogs as a pillow. It's a remarkable story. So deserving special attention because it's unusual or extraordinary. So it's not every day that a little girl is found safe, luckily, and using her dog as a pillow. I believe that dog was described as furry. So let's talk about furry. Furry, it's right here. Furry. So what I would like you to know that is animals don't really have hair. So instead of hair for animals, we most often call it fur, right? And unfortunately, with My hair is disappearing, so I can't exactly be called hairy, but this dog apparently is very furry, so it has a lot of hair. At the bottom, furry. Animals have fur instead of hair. If an animal has a lot of fur, we would say it's furry. I don't think they mentioned the breed of dog in this article, but it's a furry type of dog. Troops used drones and police dogs in the search while local police and citizens from both Michigan and adjacent Wisconsin helped look for the girl in the remote wooded area. Uh-oh. 3 words in there that I thought might be difficult. At least 3, right? At least 3. So the first one is a drone. I do think I have a picture of a drone for you. Yes, I do. All right, drone. So these things have become pretty popular within the last couple of years. And there are usually 2 types of drones. One that flies high and takes pictures, but other drones now are becoming weaponized. So they are starting to carry like bombs and bullets and things like that. So there have been a lot of laws in the United States about when and where you can fly drones. One is because they could interfere with airplanes. If you accidentally fly your drone too high and it causes an accident with an airplane, that could be horrible, right? Cause a lot of loss of life. But then just the normal photograph ones, the ones that take photographs, there are a lot of places where you cannot fly your drone. Even in like the national parks in the United States, I don't believe you can fly a drone anywhere. And I was researching going to Egypt. I don't think it's going to happen next year, but I think Jordan and Dubai will, but not Egypt. They said you can't bring a drone into the country. They will take it from you. When you get to Egypt and you have to go through customs, they will confiscate it. It's a fancy word to say they will take it. So you can't fly a drone anywhere, I don't think, in Egypt. Try to get a good view of the pyramids. It's just because so many of them are being used in war now that you don't know which ones are just for photographs and videos and which ones are weaponized. But these police were able to use drones. What else? There was a couple other, adjacent. That's a hard one too. But adjacent, so adjacent basically is a fancy way to say like right next to. Adjacent, it's an adjective, describes something. Next to something else, nearby or neighboring. So if you've been in my classroom, you go out the door, the bathrooms are adjacent to my classroom. They're right next door. It's another word you might hear, right next door. And they're talking about the state of Wisconsin in this article. So like Wisconsin and Michigan, they border each other. That's how we would say it with states. But look like so many troopers, got to talk about that next, right? So many troopers were helping in the search. Others came from a different state. And the last one for this paragraph, remote, was mentioned in that article. It said remote wooded area. So when you hear that, one of the most common remotes in English is something you can use to control something that might be across the room, maybe a television. So you could have a TV remote. Some people call it a clicker, but a TV remote. But it's used in a different way here. But a TV remote. But it's used in a different way here. Remote means not a lot of people are living there. So kind of scary for this girl. Like if she is in a remote wooded area, wooded means lots of trees. It's unlikely that people would have found her. So with this drone, maybe they were using something like heat seeking. So as the drone flies over, it could be looking for things that are warm. So her body, all of us in Fahrenheit, it's at 98.6 is the average temperature. So people are pretty warm. And if you have a drone that can look for warmth, it probably could find her. And her 2 dogs were probably pretty warm too. Troopers, let's just talk about troopers right off the bat here. Troopers. You wouldn't call local police troopers, probably. These would be state police or maybe even like military police. I do have a definition for you. Members of a police force, often referring to state or military police. So, not local city police, but probably from the state. So, if something really bad happens in a city and it's so bad that that small police force can't handle it, the state police will come in and help. And this seems like, a little girl wandering into the woods. They want to find her safe. So, probably, like they said, a lot of people from even outside of the state came to try to help. Lots of English, hopefully, for you, building that vocabulary. Troopers from Michigan State Police's Iron Mountain Post, maybe a city in Michigan, have been called to a home in the fall. Let me make this a little bigger for you. In the Faithhorn area of Menominee County, about 8 p.m. Wednesday, after the girl wandered away. Yeah, we should talk about wandered too, but maybe we should talk about county as well. So 50 states, right, in the United States, and all of those states have cities, but in between cities and towns, which is probably the smallest, there's something called counties. So in Maine, where we live, there are hundreds of cities and towns, but there are 16 counties in one state. So it's just another form of government, county, wandering. So this is when you are walking somewhere, but you don't have any direction. You don't really have a place where you want to go. So if you were walking to school, that's not wandering. You have a place in mind where you want to go. But luckily, I don't have many students that do this, thank you. Some students will say, hey, I'm going to the bathroom, cool. And then they wander the halls. They don't have any place to be. They're just kind of wasting time wandering. So when you hear wandering, that means people are they're not in a hurry to get anywhere, which is kind of cool. And it's good when you don't have any place to be. You can just wander around. But if you're supposed to be in class, you shouldn't be wandering the halls.